Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugarland City Council meeting for Tuesday, June the 21st. A little bit about our agenda tonight. In a minute, Stuart Jacobson is going to lead us in both the invocation and the pledge. That'll be followed by a special recognition, and I'll invite the Chowdhury family, Tate, Chesley, and I'll have it by the time we get down there. Tanaz, there we go. Tanaz down. We'll do that special recognition, and then we'll move on with the regular agenda. So at this time, Stuart, invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Please join me in prayer for the protection and well-being of our residents, those who live, work, and visit our city, for our local businesses to prosper, and so that we may all prosper from a thriving economy, for administrators, teachers, support staff, and all the students of our schools. We pray for protection of our fire, police, and first responders, that they continue to perform their jobs safely and with perseverance, and that they all come home at the end of the shift. For our city officials, our mayor, council members, board and committee members, and all the volunteers that contribute their talent to serve wisely and with integrity, I pray for the protection, well-being, and blessing of each one. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. We've got a special recognition tonight. Tate Chowdhury, who is the International Piano Contest winner. Tate, I'd like to get you to come up, Tanaz and Chesley. If you could all come up, and then if you have family members that want to come up, just the three of you. Okay, perfect. We've got a certificate of recognition, the Office of the Mayor. This certificate of recognition is presented to Tate Chowdhury, a Dulles High School student who exhibits astounding musical and scholastic abilities, which have earned him international recognition and elite awards. In honor of his musical talents, which have won him first place in the esteemed American Protege Award, Tate was nominated for an international music contest, and he was chosen as one of the finalists and ultimately won first place for his piano rendition of La Campanella by Franz Liszt. You can tell I wasn't a music major. Tate has been invited to perform his winning piece at Carnegie Hall in New York City, New York on June 26, 2022. Congratulations. Tate has consistently competed in scholastics and academics as a high achiever and achieved success in music in spite of extreme hearing loss in both ears. In addition, Tate serves as a young impact leader within his peers and the community at large. He has participated in numerous volunteer and community service projects, including going from a student to an inspirational speaker at the Center for Hearing and Speech, a program that serves children with hearing and speech impediments. Tate, congratulations.
All right, so I'd like to start off by saying a special thank you to Mayor Zimmerman, as well as all the council members, especially Council Member Karamali. I'd also like to say a thank you to my wonderful parents, as this would not have been possible without y'all.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, I can feel it. I could feel. So, when I started, practicing piano a few years back, at first it was just like a hobby or a passion or something I did in my free time. However, as I started understanding music better, it started becoming, more as a passion for me. And I realized that music wasn't about just, playing the notes or, just playing something for somebody, but it was about the meaning behind those notes and, allowing everybody in the room to also feel what you were feeling in that moment. So recently I realized that this could be, applied to real life, as life isn't just about, doing things, but it's about, making memories and gaining experiences and stuff. And so, I'm very excited to see what comes up in the future. Thank you very much.
Move on to item number two. Item number two is the public comment part. This is for any item on the agenda that is not a public hearing. So at this time, we'll ask that anyone that would like to speak to one of the items, except for a public hearing item, come forward at this time. If you'll give your name, address, and what agenda item you'd like to speak on. Thomas, anybody signed up?
No, sir, we have no one signed up in advance.
Anybody from the audience? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Bill Griffin. I live at 1123 Herring Court here in Sugarland. And unfortunately, the agenda item number I'd like to speak about is regarding paying a fee for solicitation, particularly with minors.
Okay.
I'm not sure which agenda item that is, but let me just give you a little bit about the impact that would have for us. I'm a scout leader for Boy Scout Troop 992 here in Houston. We're one of many, in Sugarland. We're one of many troops here in Sugarland. And what we really strive to do with our scouts is teach them good citizenship in our community, in the world, in the nation, as well as the world. We teach them leadership, and we teach them the value of hard work and service to others. And part of this, one of the things they do, the highlight that they have each year is to go to a summer camp. There they get to work on merit badges and learn new skills. And in fact, our scouts happen to be in Florida Sea Base right now doing just that. But to get there, it can be quite costly, can be expensive. And some of the parents can afford it, but some of we try to instill in the scouts to earn their way. One of our projects that we have, like I said, we're one of many troops that have this, is we have a money-making project where they can earn money to be used towards their campership to go to camp based on patriotic flags. We think that's great for our community because, and what that consists of, by the way, is a subscription. We'll walk the neighborhoods. We do have 2 neighborhoods for our troop. And if a family would like to pay $35, they'll get, our scouts will put up the American flag on 4 different holidays, on Memorial Day, on Flag Day, Independence Day, and also on Labor Day. Thank you very much. I knew it was in September. And what they do is they will arrive early in the morning, put the flag up in front of the home, and then take it down in the evening. It's great for the community because as you drive by, you get to see that patriotism in the streets. It's great for the scouts because they are able to have something where the harder they work, the more they can earn to lessen the cost that it costs them to do some of the other things. So sometimes you might have heard, I think we have it in our nation, some things get passed and there's unintended consequences. What you're looking at could be an unintended consequence based on these scouts. Ours range from anywhere from 10 to 17. They're minors. So I would just ask that if you think that, consider what if you do this, maybe exclude minors. They're learning free enterprise, they're learning leadership, they're learning service to others, and it helps them in a great way. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's item number 7A.
Thank you. Item
Ordinance
number
number
7.
2264.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? We're going to move on to item number 3, the consent agenda. We've had a request by Councilmember Watley and Councilmember Ferguson. We're going to pull item H. So I'd like to ask for any other council members who want to pull any of the items on the consent agenda. Okay, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and move on all the items except item H, and we'll have a separate discussion on H. Can I have a motion? Got a motion by Jacobson, got a second by McCutcheon. Any further discussion? You vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. We're going to now move to item number H. Consideration of an action on authorization of amendment number 1 to the wastewater operations service contract between the City of Sugarland and the Brazos River Authority, increasing the consumer price index for fiscal year 2023 from 2.5% to 7.8%. And we've got with us Brian Butcher, our Director of Public Works. Brian.
Good evening, Mayor. Yes, sir. I will also like to say that Danica Miller, our Facilities Operations Manager, is with me, as well as Brad Burnett, who's the Lower Basin Manager for the Brazos River Authority. He controls everything in this part of the world for BRA. I don't have a presentation, but I'll definitely turn it over for any questions.
Councilmember Watley.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. The main reason I'm asking this to be pulled is for a better understanding of what this entails, because I think a lot of people might confuse the BPI with the tax increase or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And I want clarification for the public as well as for myself, what this entails and how it affects our budget, because it says that there is an increase for 2023. So can you explain that?
Sure. So we have a contract with the Brazos River Authority to operate all 4 of our wastewater treatment plants. That includes two real components of that. One is the base services, which is all the labor, the laboratory expenditures, any sort of preventative maintenance, any sort of repairs that have to happen. We have a contract with them to do that. Then we also have a contract with them to do some additional services, and those things include chemicals and sludge hauling and other technical things that they have to bid out, and they do just as a pass-through. It's all in one contract. Every year, that base services, just the core things that they have to do for us, is adjusted based on the market, and that's based off the consumer price index, which is the adopted economic standard for the way that the economy is changing from a cost of doing service. Okay, that's my layman's term of definition there. We put in the contract that CPI adjustment is capped at 2.5%. And so, for example, last year at this time, the CPI was published at 1.5%. That base fee, that small component of the overall contract, went up by 1.5%. Now, here we are in 2022, having made the decision last June, and obviously their prices have gone up much more than that, and they're actually losing money on the contract this year because they have to turn in all their actuals to us. So what they did is they came to us and they said, we realize the contract for that small portion is capped at 2.5%, but the cost of doing business has gone up and we need a greater number than that. So the remaining portion of the contract, the whole $3.8 million that is the annual contract, the only thing that's changing is that little bit of increase on the base fee is now not being capped at 2.5%. It's now going to go up to 7.8, which is the published CPI for this month of the year. Now, what does that mean for your rates? We fully intend for this increase to be incorporated into this year's or FY23 budget, and we still fully intend to be able to meet the commitments that were laid out in the planning for the rate increases. What I would call the 10-10-10 plan. We still intend to be as part of that. This at this time, is not directly related to an increase in water or wastewater fees. Now, the whole budget as a whole will be filed by the city manager and Scott, and that'll be a totally different discussion. But that's not the intent of this change.
So there's no increase to the rates?
Yes, sir.
The difference is $101,330.49.
Yes, sir.
William?
No, I wanted the public to hear the exact same thing. And I'm glad Brian was the one, I'm glad Brian said it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second by Kamali. Any other discussion? Vote this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, council members. At this time, I'm going to request the council's pleasure to move item number 5, donations, ahead of the public hearings. Any objection? Item number 5, donations. 5A, consideration of and action on acceptance of monetary donations in the amount of $53,757.50 for City of Sugarland Animal Services and future shelter construction costs. And we have with us Mr. Don Specs, our Animal Services Manager.
Yes.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
Before Don gets up here, Don Steph's going to introduce him.
Yes, as customary, this is his first time to present to City Council, so I'm here to introduce Don Specs. He came to us from the Houston SPCA, where he was the Director of Animal Services. He has a degree from Tarleton University in veterinary technology and proactive practice management. We love Don. He's come in, made significant improvements at the shelter, and we are thankful to have him. And with that, I will turn it over to him.
Thanks, Don. Welcome. Or thanks, Don. Welcome, Don.
It gets confusing for me on meetings too. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time. I understand we got a lot on the agenda today, so I'll be brief, but I appreciate you allowing us to discuss these things. Let's see, do I make this move? Or? All right, we're good. Great, thank you. First, I would like to recognize my staff and team, Animal Services. Y'all could stand, please. This team works tirelessly day and night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, inclement weather during a storm, to keep our city safe with our animals, as well as finding them homes and taking care of them here at the animal shelter. Anything that I'm successful at is because of these people here. And okay, I'm going to get this right. There. Okay. Donations are received throughout the year from residents, businesses, and non-residents, and people who would like to assist the animals at the shelter. Policy requires donations be formally recognized. Since the last recognition, the city has received a total of 177 donations from 169 donors, of which 27 were over $250. Animal Services also receives a tremendous amount of support via the shelter's Amazon wish list. With that wish list, we have successfully created a neonatal unit for our kittens and our puppies, able to save more lives, more toys, more formula for our babies, and any other additional things that we may need as well. Staff would also like to recognize the volunteers and fosters who donate their time and energy to help care for the animals year-round. It's with their time and effort, many of these animals are able to be adopted because of the time that they spend with them, getting them ready to be happy animals in those new homes. This is a list of our monetary donations. This is a summary of all of those. I won't read out all of the names, but we do have some people who are present that I would also like to recognize. So as I go through some of these, and as I mention your name, please stand and be recognized as well. Petsmart Charities, as we have an agreement and a partnership with them, we do adopt many of our cats out and our dogs through Petsmart. And as we do that, they do make a monetary donation for each of those adoptions. Raising Cane's, they sell the plush puppies, which are really super cute, and they donate money in the proceeds from that. Stanley Azidi, the restaurant manager. We really appreciate that. Thank you. We have Peggy Plows, who's also a volunteer. I'd like to recognize our volunteers also donate their money and their time as well. Raymond Traber, David and Robin Novak. Robin Novak is a volunteer. She is also a foster as well as on the Animal Advisory Board. Douglas Kay. Thank you very much. Deborah Stacy, Donna Hammond, who are also volunteers as well. Donna Hammond goes to the Petsmart and helps adopt out a lot of our kittens. Ajit Thacker. Nolan Peters. So it is with this that I recommend the City Council accept Animal Services donations in the amount of $53,757.50.
Questions of Dawn? Motion to approve. Got one by Jennifer Lane, got second by Jacobson. Any further discussion? Vote this time, please. There we go. It's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, Councilmember. Yes. Well, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. So we're going to bring, if the donors have come forward, we've got a little photo op. Donors, staff,
Yes.
Your staff, Don. That includes you and the council members.
Sorry.
Don and Don. Nicole?
Well, you want to know? We tried. Okay.
Okay, great. Everyone look right here. One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last one. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Hey.
Don, thank you, your staff.
One more.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to go back to item number 4, public hearings, 4A. Public hearing. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed rezoning of 22.327 acres from Plan Development, General Development Plan, Ordinance number 1969 to Plan Development, Final Development Plan, Imperial West Business Park. And we have Laura Waller, our planner. Laura, go ahead.
Good evening. So we're going to be talking about the Imperial Area. So this is property that is right north of 90A, where University turns into Stadium Drive. So it's that area directly to the west of Nalco, now Champion X. It's bounded by the railroad spur here, so it is kind of a unique property because of that. It does have some access limitations, but it is currently proposed to be a light industrial business park type area. So again, this is just over 22 acres at South Stadium Drive and US 90A, and it's been zoned under the First Step PD as well as part of the Imperial General Land Plan to be business park, which is how we define our light industrial area. This proposal has 6 reserves, 3 phases, and 10 buildings. This also includes a 25-foot access and utility easement that would extend west and then north from South Stadium Drive. That access and utility easement, as well as the reserves in Section A, would be built during Phase 1. And then Phase 2 would be either Reserve B or C, whichever one sells first. And then Phase 3 would be the remaining reserve. This rezoning is for warehouse and office primarily, as well as some more intense retail services. And it is in line with the General Land Plan and the existing General Development Plan. So here you can see the site layout as well as the phasing. At the bottom of the sheet is US 90A, and then this is South Stadium Drive, University across 90, but it's South Stadium going north. The access easement is here. This is the 25-foot, although it's labeled as 30 feet. I believe it's 30 feet, not 25. That's my fault, sorry. This is the access easement here for utilities as well as access. This would also provide access for city maintenance to get across the railroad tracks into the drainage areas here on the other side of that railroad. Again, this would have 6 reserves, which is 3 phases. So reserves A are part of Phase 1, along with the access and utility easement, and then reserve B or C, whichever sells first, and then the remaining one. The landscape plan includes street trees as well as parking lot shrubbery screening along both the South Stadium Drive as well as along the access and utility easement. And then the pedestrian and bicycle circulation is a nice large sidewalk along South Stadium Drive, and then primarily nicer shaded areas along the edges of the parking lots where you would get into the main parts of the buildings. So people who park there in the parking lots can get to the building with shade and nice features around them. Here are a couple of sample elevations, including a single-story retail front with a warehouse to the back, or maybe a 2-story option as well. Those are all possible underneath the way the regulations are written. This is a potential perspective, a rendering, just as an example of what it could look like. This would be from the position of standing at South Stadium Drive, looking into that access utility easement that would then turn north here to this way. So this is Phase A over here, and then this would be Reserve C, and Reserve B is back here. And then an aerial view, this is looking kind of from where that bridge or where the bridge over Oyster Creek is, maybe a little bit further south than that, but from that general area, looking south towards US 90A. This is Reserve A here with, or A1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this would be Reserve C, and then B would be off in this corner. So again, this is the access and utility easement with Reserve A there to the south. This is an excerpt from the General Land Plan that was passed that defines this as a business park district. So this is in line with the proposed uses. Planning and Zoning Commission did hold a public hearing on April 12th, at which no speakers were present. There were a couple of minor changes requested that were all filled by the applicant. CNA was then held on May 10th, where there was a unanimous recommendation of approval, and we have received no inquiries since the time of the last meeting. your consideration points this evening, both commission and staff recommend approval of this rezoning. This is a specific use list tailored to this development. It's primarily light industrial with some more intense retail and services such as furniture repair, things like that. Pedestrian walkways are provided along the fronts of the buildings for shaded access to the parking lots. Our engineering staff did concur with the traffic impact analysis for this site, and it does align with the site layout and phasing plan that you saw earlier. And exhibits include 1- and 2-story elevation examples. So you have elevations as well as renderings of what the potential product would look like. Therefore, staff does recommend holding the public hearing followed by the first reading of Ordinance 2267 with the second reading to follow at a subsequent meeting. And we do have the applicant present if you have any further questions.
Thank you, Laura. This time, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing and ask anybody that would like to speak on this particular agenda item if they'd come down. Anyone?
And we have no one signed up in advance, Mr. Mayor.
Sign up? Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We're going to move to first consideration of an action on City of Sugarland Ordinance number 2267, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugarland, Texas, providing for change in zoning from Plan Development PD District General Development Plan to Plan Development District Final Development Plan for approximately 22.327 acres of land located at the northwest corner of the intersection of US 90A and South Stadium Drive across from Champion X, known as the Imperial West Business Park. Council members, any questions? Can I get a motion? Got a motion by Watley, second by McCutcheon. Vote this time, please. And it's a 7-0 vote. Thank you, council members.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Item number B, public hearing, receiving here all persons desiring to be heard on a proposed conditional use permit in the general business B2 district for the establishment of a mini warehouse and self-storage, Sugar Park Lane storage on approximately 1.7995 acres located at the intersection of US 90 and Sugar Park Lane to the east of University Boulevard. Hi, Laura.
Hi. How are you? I would also like to introduce the newest member of our team this evening, her first time presenting to City Council. This is Brittany Zhao, and she has been with us for about 8 months, came from the city of Victoria, and she's a native Sugarlander, so we are certainly happy to have her back with us.
Welcome back, Brittany. Thanks, Laura.
Good evening, Commissioners. So this is for a proposed CUP along Sugar Park Lane, as you can see here. So it is in this cul-de-sac. And it is zoned as General Business B2. So currently, this is a vacant property that is located between Moody Bank, Discount Tire, and the Crescent Rehabilitation Center. And this property was annexed into the city in 1980 and, as mentioned before, zoned as B2. The applicant is proposing an approximately 100,119 square foot mini warehouse and self-storage with 3 stories of climate-controlled indoor self-storage and 17 parking spaces. Please note that there are no nearby residential properties, and all activity and storage of inventory would occur inside the proposed structure. Staff has found that this CUP aligns with the future land use plan under the category Neighborhood Commercial and Services. Access will be provided from Sugar Park Lane from the northeast side, which is an existing public street located off of US 90A. Customers can then turn into the parking area by the proposed office, or they can continue down to the first entry doors or unloading/loading area, or they can drive around to the back of the building for additional entry or unloading/unloading area. Short-term parallel parking would be provided next to the entry doors to allow for 2 to 3 vehicles at each entry at any one time. And afterwards, customers can then proceed to around the building to the exit-only drive at the southeast to exit the property. So you can see here in the site plan the circulation, so customers would enter from here. And here's Sugar Park Lane, just to orient yourselves. So they would drive around and they could park here where there's some proposed parallel parking spaces, and then they would use carts inside the building to store their items. and then they can drive around, and they would exit from here. And then here's some more parking and parallel parking spaces. Here are the building elevations. And you can see it's a mixed facade. And here's the landscaping plan. As mentioned before, this property is located in an area that was categorized in the future land use plan as neighborhood commercial services. So this category consists of conventional car-oriented retail and services, for instance, small offices or other low-impact commercial uses that serve local residential neighborhoods. To recap on the past P&Z meeting, there was a public hearing held on April 12th, and then there was a CNA held May 10th, and no speakers were present at any of those. Recommendation of approval was passed unanimously, and staff has not received any inquiries since the time of the last meeting. Additionally, P&Z did recommend several changes in order to mitigate the possible impact on the neighborhood. They also suggested things such as making sure that if any pavers are disturbed during construction, that they would be replaced, and that all pavement would be concrete to match existing concrete. So items such as that were included since the P&Z's meeting. So your points for consideration is that this, once again, this approximately 1.7995 acre vacant commercial reserve was annexed into the city in 1980 and is zoned as B2. The sites near this property are also zoned as B2 and are uses of medium-high intensity, and there are no shared property lines with any single-family residential zoning districts. Staff has found that this requested CUP is compatible with the existing uses in the surrounding area, and that this proposed use appears to be well suited to this location due to its access next to a major highway and its location in the Sugar Park Lane cul-de-sac. The proposed layout would use an existing access easement which branches off of Sugar Park Lane, and as mentioned before, the P&Z Commission recommended approval unanimously of the CUP along with some additional conditions in order to mitigate any negative impacts on the surrounding area. Therefore, staff recommends holding a public hearing followed by the first reading of Ordinance 2268, Sugar Park Lane Storage CUP, and to hold a second reading to be held at a subsequent City Council meeting. And the applicant is present for further questions here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. This time we're going to open to public hearing on ordinance number 2268. Anyone here that would like to speak on this particular agenda item? Thomas, anybody?
Nobody signed up early.
We're going to go ahead and close public hearing. We're going to move first consideration of an action on City of Sugarland ordinance number 2268, an ordinance of the City Council, City of Sugarland, Texas, granting a conditional use permit for self-storage Sugar Park Lane storage located on approximately 1.7995 acres at Sugar Lane Business Park near US Highway 90A and Sugar Park Lane within the general business zoning district. Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. Brittany, the rehabilitation center, is that a residential facility or just a day use facility?
No, sir, that is a day use facility for medical uses.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Just to clarify, when you say
Sure.
day use, people do spend the night, sorry, Mayor, people do spend the night at this location.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, they do. However, it is not a residential use and it is only temporary for them to stay there. Thank you for pointing that out.
Very good. And then follow-up, Mayor.
Follow-up.
Moody Bank, were they notified that this could be possibly coming in their backyard?
Yes, sir. Everyone within 200 feet of the property were notified through letters, and of course, it was posted in the newspaper.
And was it unanimous in P&Z?
Yes, sir. And we did not receive any inquiries about this CUP.
No further questions.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Mayor.
Got a motion approved by Kermally. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second by Lane? You'll vote at this time, please. Manifest 7-0. Thank you, council members. Moving on to item number 6, contracts and agreements. 6A, consideration of an action on authorization of a contract with Kimberly Horn and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $465,000 utilizing Sugarland Development Corporation funds for professional engineering design services for the Owens Roadway project, CIP CST 2003. We've got Greg Nichols, our senior project manager. Greg.
Good evening, Mayor. Let me start with a couple of introductions. Nick Raha is our new engineering manager in the engineering department. He comes to us from TxDOT. This is Manu Isaac. He's from Kimberly Horn, our consulting engineering firm for this project.
Welcome.
Let me get my glasses here. Okay, what do I need to do, Thomas, to advance? There, it went. Okay. Okay, we'll jump right into background. City comprehensive plan outlines the need to preserve former central unit property. Plans are to develop a new light industrial park at the site, completed demolition and environmental remediation on the city-owned property there, developing public safety training facility. As you're aware, there's a police shooting range already constructed and some fire department training facilities already in place. Owens Road is important for access to these sites. Construction funding from 2017 and 2020 Fort Bend County Mobility Bond. Background continued. Preliminary engineering design PER is complete. US 90 and Owens Road intersection design is 95% complete. If you recall, we did the intersection up at Highway 90 first, considering the fact that it would take a long time to get that intersection through TxDOT and UPRR. Both entities are currently reviewing our plans for that intersection. This design contract is for the roadway portion north of US 90A on city property. Developer of Track 2 property will construct roadway on private property. Fort Bend County will construct roadway from Track 2 property to FM 1464. Okay, this map kind of shows what I just discussed. This area here on the right in purple on city property is what the city is going to design. The yellow portion is what the developer is going to design on private property. And the farthest portion to the west there in red is what Fort Bend County is going to design. Analyze options. I've got several notes for these next couple of slides. 5 options were analyzed during the PER. The factors considered safety, traffic movement, future connections for development, and developable land. The site-specific condition is that the majority of the traffic flow will be the northwest and east-south movement. So this is not a typical intersection because it only has 2 main legs. How to safely and effectively serve this specific traffic demand was a focus. And being that if you see this main 4-lane boulevard here is where the majority of the traffic is going to be. This going up to the north to the training facilities that I discussed earlier is only going to be a 2-lane. So the majority of our traffic will be on the through 4-lane portion there. A signalized intersection was not a viable solution because it would delay the main traffic flow, which is again the northwest east-south movement. It would be too close to UPR double track and it would be close to 98 signals. Thus, PER evaluated a non-signalized design option, which includes T intersection on a curve and a roundabout. These are the 2 T intersections from the PER. The one on the left uses a 2,000-foot radius following city design standards, causes minimal impact to existing trees. If you see that 2,000-foot radius pushes it all the way from those trees that are up there kind of in the corner. However, it's less desirable. However, it is less developable industrial land, and there is decreased safety for the T intersection of roadway on a curve. It's less desirable because we push that road out into more or less the center of the land there, and that takes away from what we can develop. The one on the right increases developable land compared to option 1 on the left using a smaller radius criteria from AASHTO the American Association of State Highway and Transportation official criteria. However, it still decreases developable land on the east side corners. As you see, these two kind of corners here on the east side are even smaller than they would be for the picture on the right. Also, safety is decreasing more with smaller radius. Slight distance, sight distance is less desirable with a T intersection on a roadway with even a tighter curve radius there. As you're approaching that curve and that tight radius, you're going to be up on that intersection even closer before you're able to see that intersection with that tighter radius. Okay, so some more of the options that were analyzed included a roundabout in the PER. 3 roundabout options were also evaluated. The one on the far left that creates the least amount of impact to existing trees. If you see, the roundabout is kind of in an open area right now, so it saves a few trees right there and increases developable land from previous options. This option provides better sight distance, provides traffic calming, and safety overall is increased with the roundabout. Sorry. The one on the far right and middle are roundabouts running parallel to existing Circle Drive. These options also increase the amount of developable land compared to the T intersection options. However, they create the most significant impact to the existing trees on the south and north ends. The middle option also limits left turn access due to the median. In conclusion, the recommended alternative from the PER was the option on the far left because that option provides a safer intersection and provides better traffic movement for northwest, east-south approaches and saves more trees than the other roundabout options. PER findings: the T intersection on a curve, lower traffic safety due to the T intersection with sight distance, like I kind of mentioned a little bit ago. If you're coming down the main boulevard there in a curve, you're not going to be able to see that intersection until you get closer to it. Not a desirable alignment for development. It pushes the roadway out more towards the center of the property, limits connection to airport property. Roundabout creates smoother flows for all traffic movements, improves traffic safety, reduces speeding for all traffic, maximizes developable land, allows for future connection options to airport property. Recommended site-specific solution for this area. Firm selection. Selection was in accordance with City Policy PU 109 for procurement of professional services. Kimberly Horn and Associates completed the PER and is currently finalizing US 98 intersection design. Project scope: 3,000 feet of 4-lane boulevard, multi-lane roundabout intersection at the turn curve, 1,200 feet of 2-lane roadway north of the roundabout to public safety training facility and airport property, coordination with other agencies and consulting firms, topographic survey and meets and bounds, utility coordination, public engagement meeting, tree preservation plan, bid phase and construction phase services. Budget and schedule. Available budget is $633,600. Professional services fee for CIP ST 2003 is $465,000. Design funding source, SLDC. Construction funding source is going to be the Fort Bend County Mobility Bond with up to $13.3 million. You're going to hear more about that in the next presentation about the funding for the project. Notice to proceed, anticipated July 2022. Anticipated completion, February 2023. Request for approval, authorize award of professional service design contract with Kimberly Horn Associates in the amount of $465,000 for the design of the Owens Road CST 2003 on city property. And with that, the team and I will answer questions.
Question, anybody?
Yes, please.
Suzanne?
Thank you for the presentation. I just have a few questions, and we're talking roundabout again.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I have a few concerns from the other night. This road will be open to general traffic, correct, at some point?
Yes, ma'am. The majority of the traffic flow, it's going to wind up being a cut through from 90 to 1464. So the majority of the flow is going to be that cut through traffic. The developer has also slated
I think it's 804 residential lots for his portion of the property, with, I think it was 50 acres for industrial on his portion, as well as our portion is going to be industrial too. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're expecting heavy traffic flow at some point in there. We're actually planning for that with the roundabout, and I understand that. My question is mostly concerning the fire safety in the back part of that, where they have to have access coming in and out of there. Have you consulted with them to see how they navigate the roundabout and what's the best way for them to enter there?
We haven't talked with the fire department directly, but in talking with our consultants, the roundabout is going to be designed to accommodate large vehicles, including fire trucks.
I'm not concerned about their size, but how they enter and exit based on the traffic flow.
Okay.
I would just appreciate their input as well, because they are at that fireplace, at the fire training, and when they get calls, they have to come out pretty quickly.
Sure.
And I'm old school. I like the signs that say, stop traffic, let them go. And without that stop traffic, let them go, I just get concerned. So I think it would be a good idea at least to bring them into the conversation.
Absolutely. We can include them in the design process. As we move forward along in the process, we can submit our drawings to them and get their input as we progress through the design.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Jennifer?
What is the cost difference with the T, the curve with the T versus the roundabout?
No, did you break that out?
Honorable Mayor, respected council members, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here this evening. Regarding the price, the T intersection and the roundabout, roundabout is slightly more expensive, but since this is a greenfield location where it's going to be a brand new construction, the price difference is not that significantly more. A lot of the cost that is associated with roundabouts goes into the landscaping and all the beautification that generally goes in with a typical roundabout. If you take out all of those things, they're pretty much wash. I would say to construct a segment that's about 400 feet, might be somewhere in the 1.5 to 2 million. A roundabout would be about in the same, maybe 2 to 2.25.
The safety aspects are significant, though, between a roundabout and a T intersection with a stop sign.
Right.
The roundabout's favored in that.
The roundabouts is a lot safer, yeah. And can I answer Councilmember Wardley's question earlier? Definitely the fire is we need to look into that. But, in a roundabout, unlike a T intersection where the side street traffic has to stop and get a break in the traffic on the main street to get out, in a roundabout, all the workers have pretty much uniform ability to get into the circulating circle. So especially a fire truck coming with the lights and flashes on should be able to get in much easier than at a T intersection. Yeah. Yeah.
Greg, can you come to the mic a little bit? Come to the mic a little closer. Thanks.
Yeah, to add to that, the traffic in the roundabout's already be going much slower just to make it through the roundabout, so it'll be easier for the fire trucks to get out, but we'll certainly include them in the process.
Follow up, Jennifer.
On this design, is there, we have another roundabout proposal, but they have room for a bike lane. Would that encompass that as well, to connect bike lanes in the future?
Yeah, we're not including bike lanes in the roundabout. What's we're looking at is the old existing Central Drive. I'm sure you've been out there, the old asphalt road that runs right up to the front door of the prison, if you will, with the very large oak trees that everybody loves. The plan is to use that as a trail, and it's very wide, and it'll take us all the way up to the roundabout. And then from the roundabout going to the west, we're going to complete a 10-foot wide concrete trail just to the north of the roadway heading out to the end of our property.
William?
Well, I like to show off our roundabout on Stadium by Constellation Field, Stadium at Imperial. That's a four-way. Size-wise, it sounds like this roundabout may be a similar size because of the flow of traffic. Is that correct?
Yeah. This particular roundabout, would be around 160 to 165 feet circular diameter. That's about the same as the stadium drive. There's a little bit of flexibility in the diameter that we can have when we design it. Like I said, this is only in the preliminary engineering stage. When we design based on Councilmember Wadley's comments, we will be looking at fire trucks, all the workers that might use the roundabout, and there's a little bit of flexibility to make the roundabout a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller.
Sure, no,
Yeah.
may I follow up?
Well,
And given that, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm looking at this correctly, so the traffic going north from this potential roundabout would be really for our public servant training center, correct?
Correct.
It wouldn't be,
And to the airport in the future.
And to the
Yeah,
airport.
Yeah.
okay. And we've had a lot of success, correct me if I'm wrong, with Imperial at Stadium, that roundabout, as keeping it safe. It's a very safe roundabout as far as I can tell from what I read. So this could be a real good win for us. Okay, thank you.
anyone else? Do I have a motion? Got a motion by Jacobson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kamali. Vote at this time, please. Thank you, Councilmember. 7-0 vote. Item number 6B, consideration of an action, thank you, Greg. 6B, consideration of an action on authorization of an interlocal agreement by and between Fort Bend County, Texas and the city of Sugarland, Texas in the amount of $13,310,000, utilizing the 2017 and 2020 mobility bond programs, finding that Owens Road Project CIP CST 2003, and we've got with us Monique Johnson, our Transportation and Mobility Innovation Manager. Monique.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. So now we're going to talk about how we're going to pay for Owens Road. There we go. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to approve an interlocal funding agreement with Fort Bend County for the construction of the Owens Road project. This was included in the 2020 and 2017 voter-approved Fort Bend County Mobility Bond. So a little bit of background, in November 2017, voters approved a $218 million Fort Bend County Mobility Bond. That included $3.47 million towards the city's portion for the Owens Road construction cost. In November 2020, the county had another voter-approved mobility bond, $218 million, and then in that bond, it included $9.84 million towards the city's portion of the Owens Road project construction costs. So the total from both bonds allocated by Fort Bend County adds up to $13,310,000, and this is to be used towards construction only. So the project scope, you just heard a very detailed background, but it is a new roadway to serve the central unit property, approximately 3,000 linear feet, 4-lane boulevard, multi-lane roundabout intersection and sidewalks. There's also approximately 1,200 linear feet of a 2-lane roadway coming from the roundabout to connect to the existing airport property in the public safety training facility. So city obligations in the interlocal agreement, we are to fund and manage the design for the project. We do have the right to extend the project limits as necessary to improve connectivity at the city's expense. We are to oversee the construction and request payment from Fort Bend County within 30 days after letting the project. So once we have the contract in place, we can request the funds, and they have 30 days to give us the full $13 million. Fort Bend County is obligated to pay 100% of those funds once they receive that written notice. So the estimated construction, design and construction cost for the city's portion, so the purple portion that you saw earlier is $10.9 million. The Fort Bend County Mobility Bond allocation is $13,310,000. And so the city's obligation is designed. So in total, we've spent $615,000. So that includes the TxDOT and Union Pacific intersection that was done earlier, and of course the contract that was just approved for design. So that's those two items combined for that $615,000. So So with that, we would like to request your approval for the interlocal funding agreement with Fort Bend County in the amount of $13,310,000 for the construction of the Owens Road project. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Got a motion by Lane to approve. Do I have a second? A second by McCutcheon. You vote this time, please. It passes 7-0. Monique, the only question I have is, at one time before this council was seated, we called that John Sharp Boulevard. Did something change?
Well, a lot has changed. I think the county is using a different name also from Owens Road. And I don't think it's John Sharp either. So so it has gone to different names. So I think once we start building and work with the county, maybe we can decide what we want to call the road. So
I'm
it's
going to
not,
suggest that we insist that the county call it
Yeah.
John Sharp. That was what was agreed to
okay,
years ago.
okay.
John Sharp Boulevard, thank you. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Monique.
All right. You're welcome.
Item number 6C, consideration of an action on authorization of a construction contract with Star Services, Inc. in the amount of $663,841 and authorization of a budget amendment in the amount of $185,000 for the Fire Station Number 7 HVAC Improvements Project CIP CMU 2202. We've got Ms. Keisha Seals, Assistant Director of Environmental and Neighborhood Services. Keisha.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
Good evening.
So I'm here before you to talk about Fire Station 7. This is a project or a facility that was built in 2011. It was our first leadership in energy and environmental design certification, and the first fire station to ever have that leadership or lead certification. It's located in Telfair, 1301 Chatham Avenue. And typically it houses about 4 to 7 first responders, of course, pending their shifts. So I want to give you a little bit of background on it because this is the first time that we've had to come before council pertaining to mold. And so the first time that the fire station has ever seen mold in the 11, almost 12 years that it's been erected. So the facilities division arranged for Fire Station 7 to be inspected and tested after some mold was resumed or observed on the wall in the gear storage room. We hired a air quality testing company to perform and confirm the presence of the mold. Immediately following that, we relocated the firefighters into a housing unit on site so they can still do their daily activities that they needed in terms of responding to incidences. But we went ahead and immediately informed council of what was going on, and then we got going and working on the testing company to develop a mold remediation protocol, and that detailed out what we needed to do to remediate the mold expeditiously. And that included any areas that would penetrate or water would infiltrate the building. We had to make sure that we did remediation on that, and which also included roof, water heaters, the HVAC system, which is before you tonight, and then any building envelopes that we needed to make any improvements to. We initiated an emergency service contract in July of last year for the remediation, and we did hire a remediation company to come in and put in some dehumidification as well as doing some cleanup. And then we also received quotes for the rebuild of the facility inside. In August, we did the remediation, and then in September, the remediation was completed. We also identified some water heater issues that we went ahead and did improvements to as well. And then we also worked with risk management to address insurance claims through TML. In fall of last year, and then of course continuing on into this year, we conducted the roof assessment and we completed the necessary repairs to the roof assessment. We also, through the policy PU 109, contracted out a MEP firm as well as an architectural firm. The MEP firm to, of course, do an assessment on the HVAC system and then design the system based off of the necessary or based off of the findings. And then the architectural firm, because we had to go in there anyway and do some remodeling, we decided to go ahead and do the battalion chief's dorm room space, and you'll see that contract come before you in July. But we figured since we were already in there, we want to get in there, be in there one time, get out and provide the firefighters back their house. And so this was a good opportunity for us to come in and do this rebuild for the battalion chief's space. At the end of April, we finalized the HVAC improvement plans, and we began advertising in May. We did advertise for 3 weeks, and then, of course, we began rebuilding the inside of the facility in May as well. So the project scope, it does include replacement of the variable refrigerant load equipment. That essentially means that is the area that allows the processing of the heating and the cooling through the system. We do have to install outside air pretreatment system. Again, this is not unique to this area. Mold, unfortunately, is something that you see throughout the Southeast region. And so, unfortunately, fortunately, Sugarland is not unique to this as well. There are many other cities that have gone through this with their fire stations. And so the outside air is really what is a detriment to the heating and the cooling system. We do have to replace the existing ductwork, install new insulation, and then replace the HVAC controls and then do some electrical. We did go through an invitation to bid process. We advertised again for 3 weeks, May 11th, 4th, 11th, and 18th. There was a mandatory pre-bid meeting held on May 19th. And one of the reasons why we did the mandatory pre-bid meeting is we wanted to make sure that the contractor that bid on the contract knew exactly what the contract consisted of. We didn't want somebody just reviewing the plans, but we wanted to make sure that they put their eyes on the project itself so they have a good understanding of the project. The bids were opened on June 9th. We did receive one qualified bidder. That was Star Services for the amount of $663,841. The MEP estimate was $580,000, but I will say that $663,000 includes contingency that staff put in for unknown. So if you look at apples to apples, they were not that far off. I do want to take a moment to introduce Star Services. Their Vice President, Doug Fisher, is here, as well as some other members of Star.
Welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. So this is a 2019 Geo Bond Project. It is under CMU 2202, which is the Public Safety and Public Services Building Rehab. The available funds in that project is $519,000. Again, the construction is $663,000. So there leaves a balance of $144,000 that we need approved. And so tonight you also have a budget amendment request before you of $185,000, and that, of course, is to cover the balance as well as any contingency. TML Insurance did cover about $13,000 of the overall project, mainly because this area was not related to any event. Typically, of course, insurance covers event-related items, but the water heater was covered under the freeze event. And so we were able to at least get some funding back from the insurance company, but unfortunately, not a lot. So, of course, due to the supply chain, just much like everybody else, the facility side is really dealing with supply chain issues. And we recognize that HVAC systems and parts are very difficult to come by, which is why you may have seen we did a very aggressive schedule to get this presentation before you, because we wanted to be able to make sure that the contractor can hit the ground running very quickly, get in line for the equipment that we need for this project. And so what we recommended is that we do not provide them with a notice to proceed until they can inform us that the material has been received. However, once the contract is signed, they will go ahead and submit all of the submittals that we need for review and approval, so they can go ahead and order the materials and once again get in line so we can get our equipment as soon as possible. Once the equipment is in, they will notify us. That's when their start time will begin. So we're anticipating 30 calendar days from the time that the notice to proceed is given to them. And then, unfortunately, December of this year, we're looking at anticipation of completion. So this project will not impact, of course, any residents according to our policy CO 110. And so that means no mail delivery or trash pickup or water service interruptions. Again, it does impact supply chain issues as well as cost increases. And that's only if we need to change out like-kind material. If they just cannot find the material and we have to go to an approved like-kind material, then there may be some differences in there. So staff is recommending the authorization of a construction contract with Star Services in the amount of $663,841 for the Fire Station Number 7 HVAC improvements, CIP CMU 2202, as well as a budget amendment in the amount of $185,000. And with that, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Go ahead, Will.
I do have questions. So I was in the HVAC business for 6 years, and so you said this is not event-related. So my assumption is it's design-related on Station 7. Is that how all this went wrong? Was there a design issue?
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a design issue. It is whenever you have humidity, and you know, whenever you have humidity and air clashing with one another, you're going to have condensation, of course, which incorporates moisture and unfortunately sometimes mold. We all know that our bay doors open and close all the time, which means the doors inside the facility open and closes all the time. And so design, no. What I will say is that the dehumidification system that we're including in the new system is certainly a benefit, and that's something we did not have before.
And as a follow-up, if I may.
Follow-up.
I can't think of it any other way other than a design issue, and I'll tell you why. We do. Every building, every structure, residential, commercial, all deals with the same, depending on load. So what I'm concerned about is if the decision is to move forward on this project, I just don't want to look back and go, oh, we should have dealt with the design issue that produced the problem in the first place. That would just be wasting tax dollars. So that's why I'm asking. I'm not trying to point at anybody or any design. I just want to make sure we're addressing the true issue and not just slapping new equipment into a bad design. That's all I'm asking.
And I appreciate that response. And I will say DBR, who is our consultant, they are very well known for fire stations. And so what they did was an assessment first. And what that assessment showed us was that we are not treating the outside air coming into the facility, right? And so the major thing that we needed to include was dehumidification prior to the outside air getting into the facility. Now that we're installing that dehumidification, that's going to help dry out the air before it goes into the system and distributes into the facility. And again, that wasn't there before.
Well, Carol.
So why do you think we only got one qualified bidder on the project? You think it was supply chain issues or?
You know, we've seen issues with bidders because of supply chains, and so they really don't want to put a number out there. They are very busy themselves. I can say there's a number of things that's going on, but what I will say is Star Services has done a lot of work for the city of Sugarland, so we're comfortable with them. And so if I only could get one bidder, I'm glad it was them.
Oh, that's great. Now, where are they located?
They're in the Houston metropolitan area.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mayor.
Michelle?
I want to build on what William started, and you have that bold on the bottom, the $13,000 from the insurance claim. I just think we've got to maybe have someone look deeper into these insurance policies are notoriously, they don't want to pay. And so they paid the least. And I know we spent a lot of money on this fire station, and I want to see Fire Station 7 up and running. I want to see them back in their house. It's a beautiful facility. They need to be back in it. But I think we should definitely continue to pound on this 13,000. So the question I have is the 185, where are we getting this from?
So the 144,000 that we need for the balance, again, you will see the battalion chief's dorm space and office come before you in July. So that cost is included in that 185,000 and then contingency.
Mayor, motion to approve.
Got a motion by Kermali. Do we have a second? Second by Jacobson. Keisha, I've got one question.
Sure.
I'd like you guys to go back and look. I mean, this is the newest fire station that I think we have in the group. The fact that we're spending this kind of money this early on, I'm not a big LEED fan. I'd like to know if the LEED certification, because of that design, if that had an impact on this, because we haven't faced this with any of the other six. A lot of them being older facilities, and I'd like to know. I'd also like to know who the architect was, and contact the architect, and let's have a look back, because if we do another facility, we don't want to repeat this again.
Yes, sir.
Got a motion, got a second. If you vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Keisha.
Thank you.
Item number 7, ordinances and resolutions. 7A, second consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugarland ordinance number 2264. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugarland, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by revising Chapter 2, Article 3, Boards and Commissions, revising Chapter 3, Article 2, Animal Services, revising Chapter 4, Article 4, Peddlers and Solicitors, deleting Chapter 4, Article 6, Vehicles for Hire, revising Chapter 5, Article 3, Use of Public Right-of-Way, revising Chapter 5, Article 4, Traffic, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And I think we have, Trish?
We have Meredith virtual, sir.
Meredith. Oh, Meredith virtually, okay. Oh, there you go. I didn't see you, Meredith.
Yes, sir. So I don't have a presentation here for you this evening. I was just going to touch on some of the questions that were presented after the last agenda item. I'll refer to them all as you go to the Peddlers and Solicitors ordinance as amendment exceptions. So you asked a number of questions. If the organization is a nonprofit, are they allowed to be exempt under the ordinance, or can they do exemptions based on age, or what the individuals are selling? So my recommendation to you is that if you want to do an exemption, you're going to need to do it based on age. You cannot do it based on who the company is, because that's part of the commercial speech regulation. And you cannot do it based upon what they're actually selling, because that would also be a violation. The United States Supreme Court requires it to be based upon time, place, and manner restriction. And I'll also let you know if you make an age restriction, that would apply to all of the deals on that.
Okay, any questions, Scott? William? Go ahead.
Meredith or Mayor, this one just hits me close, and so the way I've kind of looked at it several different ways. One, in Texas, you can work as young as 15, according to everything that I read. And if we're concerned about a young person out, trying to sell some business, we make the age younger than that. So allow elementary age, 12, 13, whatever, and lower. And then as we heard tonight, so I came up with an idea, and I would like to throw these at you. If it's a nonprofit, I certainly, that $88 fee, I believe, is what the city gave us, is what it would cost to get the tag. These are just my thoughts. A fee waiver for nonprofit, maybe even younger than 15 are exempt. I'm just throwing out ideas that for processing. And then, as our scout leader said, you know, he has young people working for their Eagle badge and things like that, even up to the age of 17. So if it's a nonprofit up to 17, waive the fee, because that fee is brutal on some of their efforts. A flag, that would be 3 flags services sold for the year. These are just the way I'm thinking right now. If there's any way at all that we block it out for elementary age for what they're doing with the PTO and those things, or we work in some sort of understanding for nonprofits. And I appreciate all the time you've given this, I really do. And my questions are relatively elementary, but I can just imagine what may or may not come from this. As we had said, you and I had said, you know, it's rare that this is ever even an issue. And so I just wanted to make sure that's out there as all these considerations are made. Thank you.
Carol?
Thank you. So is the legal age to work in Texas 14 or 15?
There's quite a few exceptions if you're working for a family business or if it's agricultural, they can drop the lowest for. But if you prefer commercial enterprise, it's generally 15.
So to be in a commercial enterprise, you have to be 15 or older. Okay. And so I guess, okay, okay. So I guess to recap what you said, if someone is 17 years, if we wanted to put an exception in for persons under a certain age, if we, whatever it is, we can't carve out any exemption just for, you know, for civic groups. It has to be everyone then. Okay.
Suzanne?
Thank you. So Meredith, based on what William said, I don't know if that's a possibility. If it is, I think we can look into it and maybe table this. Or if not, do I need to make a motion to amend the ordinance?
Sure which portion Council Burke's asked another question. If you're interested in having a structured fee schedule, I would caution you on that. Just because our fees are established by state law and not relatively big data. We can only charge a fee to cover our costs by state law and state cases. And so that if council can make a finding that is in the best interest to meet some of those costs. But generally speaking, any permit fee is based solely on the city's cost to process.
Okay.
Then you can make a business finding that you would like to have a staggered fee and fees for the individual are $15 or $20, and fees for the individual 16 or over for $88. It's really up to you as long as you make a finding.
So I'd like to try to make a motion, and further discussion can follow this, but here's what I think we're looking at. Because of the legal age to work, to possibly keep it at 14. So I make a motion to amend section 453 of Ordinance 2264 to exempt persons 14 years of age or younger from obtaining a permit pertaining to commercial or non-commercial solicitation. Does that work?
Is that a legal motion, Meredith?
That's a legal motion, it's the wrong section. I would need to be section 4-52, please.
Okay, 452.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so it's a legal motion. Is there a second? Got a second by McCutcheon. Got a motion by Watley. Everybody understand what's on the table? Go ahead.
This is just a motion to amend the second consideration. What happens if we amend it? Then do we have to go back?
Then that section, and Meredith, you'll have to reference the particular section that it applies to. Then that section gets amended. This is the second consideration, so that would be a final amendment. It won't come back to us again.
But we're just voting on the amendment right now.
Well, you're voting on the amendment, and Meredith, tell me again exactly what section it applies to.
It is section 4 of the ordinances referencing section 4-2 of the proposed changes to the federal assistance.
There you go.
And then we go back and vote on the
No, sir,
amended,
Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is your main motion, Councilman. Your main, this is your main motion right here, to pass this ordinance to amend section 452, exempting 14 years or younger. So this
But
is your
it
main
covers
motion.
everything that's on there, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so if this amendment fails, then the whole ordinance fails. The whole item fails.
Yeah, because it's not a motion to, it's the motion, it's not a motion to amend.
But you could do a motion to reconsider. if
Yeah,
that
you can
were
do a
to
motion
happen.
to reconsider, right?
I thought we had a motion to amend, I'm sorry.
Right, yeah. That's to your scenario that if this motion that's currently on the floor fails, then you could do a motion to reconsider the item. And we would vote on that and reconsider it, and you can enter in a new motion.
So it doesn't just go dead.
Okay, can I make one comment then, please?
Sure.
So the amendment is what, please? Restate it, please. Exempting whom?
The request is to amend it to let 12 and younger, 14 and younger be exempt from obtaining a permit for solicitation door to door, which would basically let your people who are, I'm hoping it would be nonprofits, but 14 and younger is the age limit. And Meredith, you can correct me, that we think that they cannot do commercial sales for profit. But this would cover all of them, 14 or younger.
Point of clarification, the reason that you all want to change this is why?
Well, so the police can't be called on Girl Scouts selling cookies who are, 12 years old or something, or
Has that
or
ever
having to get it, or
happened
having to, no, or having to get an $88 tag to be in full compliance of the city ordinance.
Has that ever happened before under the ordinance as it stands right now?
Mayor, we have not had issues with enforcing this ordinance when it comes to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts,
Yeah,
those types of
it's an
things.
enforcement issue. So if there's no enforcement issue, then there's really not, because I think what you're doing is you're opening up a whole can of worms. Because you're not just, this doesn't just apply to Boys and Girl Scouts. This applies to anyone under a certain age, period.
May I interject? And in visiting with the Scouts and other organizations, if I'm a Scout leader, they're going to get a permit, because I'm not going to tell my Girl Scouts that we aren't going to abide by the law and get an $88 permit. So when they do that, for instance, Girl Scouts sell cookies. They get $2 a box, and you may correct me, I may be wrong. So it's going to take 44 boxes to pay for that permit before they get a net profit. And, I'm not going to tell them not to get a permit and abide by the law. And that's just that instance. And I think Bill Griffin had the same idea, that he's not going to have them pull a permit to go sell flags. So if we tell them not to get the permit because we've never been called on, that's not leadership. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is having to get the permit because they're doing nonprofit.
Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, would this allow a 13-year-old to sell steak knives door to door?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, William.
So I wasn't expecting Stuart's question, but I suppose he could sell steak knives door to door, but not for commercial purposes, which would be a whole nother issue. But let's just say for a moment this passes and it does open a can of worms. Can we revisit this in a year, Meredith, and say, hey, we opened a can of worms, let's close it?
You can revisit each time you ask to see that
Mhm.
And I'm not positive what she said. I might
Yeah, the answer is we'll put it on an agenda item and we can consider it any
Okay.
time that it's an agenda item.
Okay, so if I may follow up, so what I see here happening is just a form of goodwill to the community. We don't have a problem. We don't anticipate a problem. Should a problem occur, this may or may not come back up on the agenda to deal with that problem. But our community will see just a goodwill. Hey, go and raise your children well in our community. And I'm not trying to be specific to Scouts. I want to make that clear. It could be a high school, middle school, whatever children are doing, I want to invite their involvement in our community or enrichment in our community. That's all, and sort of hands off for the police. They don't have to run out at every, again, we're not having this problem, so I just don't want to produce a problem also, is where I'm at. Thank you, Meredith, sorry.
That's the key for me, is we don't have a problem. Meredith, let me ask a different question. And Mike, you may have to answer this. So what do we charge right now for doing this?
$88 per permit.
But we have the ability, and how much revenue do we raise off that? How many applications for this do we get in a given year?
I don't know how many applications you get, but we just.
How many applications do we get a year for doing this?
I don't have that number. I know a good portion of our charge is covering the cost of background check.
Yeah, so my point is, so why not just zero it out? And there's no cost, period. We underwrite it.
Mayor, I think the problem with underwriting it is then every business that wants to go door to door, the public is then basically funding that operation, all of our costs to process it.
Okay.
But could we just, do an age limit that if someone's 14 or younger, their fee is $0 for the permit? Age restricted? Just waive it for 14 or younger?
Meredith, do you have a legal opinion on that?
Hopefully they have a very small criminal background and it's a very cheap report for them. It's entirely up to you. If you think it's a business decision or a public policy purpose to do so, it's fine. You just need to say that.
So we can amend it, which is the motion and the second on the table. And it includes everybody under the age of any business under the age of a certain age isn't required to get a permit. Or we can do the same thing under the same motion with no fee involved for that same criteria under a certain age. Which one makes more sense? Go ahead.
I absolutely like this idea, and I'll tell you why. Going back to something that was said a moment ago, and I'm just, again, because we had a scout here representing, I'm going to use scouts as so we have some young people that want to do cookies or flags or whatever in our community. Well, they need to go down to the city, learn what it's like to engage the city, no harm done. They get to see the process, good or bad or otherwise, and there's no fee for them based on that age. I think that is a great civic lesson. I would certainly find that very creative and educational for our children. But in response, the other way is I can't imagine charging a child a permit fee to do these cookies or otherwise flags or whatever things. And I like that creative option. Thank you.
So the suggestion, would you change your motion to be for anybody under 14, there is no fee.
Mayor, before you go there.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Okay, as long as we're spitballing here, what if is there such thing as a group license or tag or whatever we call it, where a scout leader, for instance, could get a group tag for $88 for his troop or den or whatever?
Yes, sir. The program is set up so that we conduct a background check for each individual that goes door to door, or not just the company.
Okay, but could we charge one?
The item may be sold, not necessarily on the individual.
Okay.
Okay, Meredith, can you walk me through this? I'm going to amend my motion to amend ordinance 2264.
Councilwoman, if I may, if you'll just withdraw your motion.
Okay.
And if Councilwoman McCutcheon agrees, just withdraw your motion and then go ahead and restate a brand-new motion.
Okay.
That way we don't have to vote on two.
I withdraw my motion.
I withdraw my second.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2264, section 452, to exempt persons 14 years of age or younger from paying a permit fee pertaining to commercial or non-commercial solicitation.
Everybody clear on the motion? Any additional comment? Vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you. Item number B, first consideration of an action on City of Sugarland ordinance number 2258, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugarland, Texas, amending provisions of Chapter 3, Article 4, Food and Food Services of the Code of Ordinances by adopting the updated Texas Food Establishment Rules and making related amendments thereto and revising regulations relating to food establishments. We have with us Nicole Solis, our Assistant Director of Environmental and Neighborhood Services, and Karen Abiola, our Food Inspection Manager.
Yes.
Nicole?
Karen is here to keep me in line, so if I say anything incorrectly, she's going to make sure that I speak accurately. So today is just a general housekeeping item, updating our food ordinances. I want to give you a little bit of background. So in Sugarland, we currently have about 617 retail food establishments. As you can imagine, that constantly fluctuates. Businesses close, businesses open. So right now we're at about 617. And a retail food establishment is defined, as any business that stores or prepares any food item meant for human consumption. So it's not just your restaurants, it's your food trucks, it's your convenience stores like your CVS's, it's your hospitals, nursing homes, essentially anywhere where you can buy food product for consumption. So the Texas Department of State Health Services actually governs all of the food safety protocols within Texas. And they're the entity that drafts what we call the Texas Food Establishment Rules. This is a set of regulations that outlines all food safety protocols as well as enforcement actions if an establishment is found to be in violation of those rules. Now, in Sugarland, we currently operate under the previous edition, which is from 2015. So late last year, DSHS did create and adopt a new edition of the Texas Food Establishment Rules. I'll be referring those as the TFER. Now, in this edition, they also incorporated sections from the U.S. Food Administration Food Code, so the FDA Food Code. The TFER was updated. Sorry, they added a supplementary from the FDA Food Code. So there's components of both. Ordinance number 2258 would adopt that, the new TFER, and bring us into compliance with the current regulations that are recommended by the state. And we spent a lot of time, Karen spent a lot of time with our legal department thoroughly reviewing the Texas Food Establishment Rules to see what, if any, modifications and amendments we needed to do prior to adoption. So we're going to go over a few amendments. So what we're proposing is adopting it in its entirety with minor amendments. So within the Texas Food Establishment Rules, we want to clarify regulations regarding wall-and-wall coverings and the colors associated with those materials to make sure that we can easily identify any areas that need to be cleaned. Drinking water in our holding tanks and mobile food units would now be subject to testing to make sure that they are thoroughly cleaning those out routinely. In the FDA supplement, we want to clarify food employee beverage containers, what persons are actually allowed in food establishment operations, It's becoming a little bit more popular for chefs to give folks tours in kitchens. That's not really something that we want to happen here. We want to make sure that those food preparation areas are kept sanitary and free from contamination from just general public. Also, codifying where grease traps are allowed to be and how to be serviced. Updating signage requirements, making sure that some of those regulations stay in place, like the Heimlich maneuver. We want to make sure that the Heimlich maneuver signage is still required. Also clarifying some definitions. And then again, as part of this extensive review that Karen and our legal department did, we also found some areas within our existing ordinance that we would like to update and clarify. So we wanted to clarify the requirements for a certified food protection manager and food handler. Also, what sort of conditions would lead to a suspension of a permit or even a closure of that establishment, and then the subsequent process by which those establishments would then be reopened. Also wanted to add a fee waiver for our mobile food units. Currently, every mobile food unit is required to receive a fire inspection, and there's a cost associated with that. Well, not all mobile units have cooking stations within them. Let's say an ice cream truck. They don't have a stove. There's no cooking place. We want to allow them to be exempted from any fire inspection fees. We also wanted to make sure to clarify that we do not allow in Sugarland push carts, peddling, and other roadside vending. It's referenced in our peddlers section of the ordinance, but we wanted to make sure it's super clear that those sorts of activities are not allowed within our city limits, except as operating in participating in a temporary event. And with that, ordinance number 2258 would adopt the 2021 Texas Food Establishment Rules and the supplementary FDA Food Code with the amendments that we've identified and reviewed. And we recommend approval of ordinance number 2258. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Joe?
Nicole, I had no idea there were 617 food establishments in our city.
It's quite a few.
William and I have a lot of places to go visit. We're going to go visit these, but Karen, you're always behind the scenes, and I want you to know I visit a lot of restaurants in the city, and people have complained in the past that we have strict guidelines and good guidelines, and I'm going to say thank you, because that keeps us all safe. And then on the other side of that, they thank our food services because you are so strict, and that is very important for the safety and the health of the well-being of all of our citizens and everyone visiting our citizens. So I want to commend you and your team for a job well done. Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Nicole, this new ordinance, is it going to be retroactive, and how long do establishments have to comply? For instance, it costs money to paint walls and whatnot.
So the approval of materials and the colors associated with that happens during construction and a pre-opening inspection. So either a property changes hands, and then during that time, we are issuing a new certificate of occupancy, and updates are required to bring that space into compliance with our current regulations. So it would occur as part of that. Now, anyone that is grandfathered in, obviously during those inspections and consultations with the owner, we would strongly advise, because it is really important to be able to see that your kitchen is clean. But that required modification would occur during that construction, pre-opening, change of occupancy process.
William?
I too appreciate a clean kitchen, and I didn't know there were 617. Okay, with that said, I am really dependent on our experts as you review all of these changes from, you said we were under the 2015?
Yes.
So it sounds like there's a lot that potentially changed. I don't know. Is that true? Or is it just 2 or 3 things, or there's
No.
200 things?
No, I mean, industry standard changes over time, right? And a lot of modifications are also taught through that certified food manager, food handler courses. So those courses stay really up to date with what current standards are. It's really a matter of identifying behaviors that are, that cause subsequent illness in,
Sure.
your customers, and just modifying those behaviors. So not a whole lot of structural changes as far as design of an establishment, but we're always, as an industry, looking for opportunity to better educate the workers within those kitchens to ensure that we minimize illness.
And if I may, just to follow up, one of the greatest lessons we learned, or that I learned from COVID, is sometimes good intentions of the government especially may, not always, may cause harm to our small businesses. So I'm assuming, again, not knowing any of this, all right, I really depend on you guys saying none of this is overly burdensome, none of this is, we love our small businesses and we certainly want to work with them, and I want them healthy. But I also am counting on you guys to say, whoa, 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 whoa. The fact that they need, dandelions at every entrance of it, and we're like, what? I'm assuming all that has been sorted out before we say, go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's why we looked at whether or not the fire fee was really necessary for those mobile food units that don't have the cooking station. So we're always looking at opportunities to ensure that our ordinances make sense. Is there a valid reason behind why we're doing what we're doing? And if there's a way to pass on some cost savings to those businesses, then that's what we look for. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? I've got a motion by Kermally. Do I have a second? Got a second by Watley. You'll vote at this time, please.
Thank you all very much.
It passes 7-0. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Karen. Item number 7C, consideration of an action on the City of Sugarland Ordinance, Sugarland Resolution, number 2228, a resolution of the City Council of City of Sugarland, Texas, authorizing publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation. Jennifer Brown, our Director of Finance. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good evening. So I have one presentation for two resolutions because they're very similar. And so rather than running through basically the same presentation twice, I've got elements of both in the one presentation. So these resolutions relate to our capital improvement program. If you'll recall, we have a charter requirement that the city manager would recommend a 5-year CIP to the city council as part of the budget process, and we do incorporate the first year of funding into the annual budget. Most of the projects that we do, we fund through the issuance of long-term debt, and we do that because we are not prudently able to fund most of the improvements from current resources or fund balances, and that allows us to spread the cost of the improvements over the useful life. So today's residents are not responsible for the full cost of a project that could last 20, 30, 40 years and benefit future generations. And that allows us to then allocate our resources to the high priority projects. All of the projects that are funded through debt will result in capital assets that matches or exceeds the proposed repayment term. This is in our financial management policy statements that you approved at your last meeting. We do not issue debt to fund rehabilitation or maintenance, ongoing maintenance work. And our tax-backed debt carries the highest possible bond ratings, which are AAA from both Standard & Poor's and Fitch rating. We, as by practice, have an aggressive repayment schedule to help minimize our interest costs. So basically, we have a flat principal payment over the life of the bond issue, so that as the maturity schedule goes on, our interest costs decline, and so we have basically a declining total debt service payment. So the first resolution, 22-28, will cover the airport projects that are included in our current CIP, which is the parallel taxiway relocation and hangars ALD 4 and ALD 11, plus the land acquisition that you approved in March, which is the acreage or the property just south of 90A, south of the runway. We're estimating total issuance to construction of around $4.05 million. The resolution includes some issuance costs for a total of $4.25 million. We are waiting on the bids on the parallel taxiway relocation to come in from TxDOT, and once we have those amounts, we'll finalize the actual amount of the issue. So we don't want to sell more than we need for those projects. And the $2.85 million was already agreed to. The second project is a drainage project that we, as staff, we applied for a loan through the Texas Water Development Board through their flood infrastructure funding program for the Oyster Creek Diversion Channel. This property is actually in conjunction with the improvements for Owens Road on Track 2. This diversion channel will remove property from the floodway, from the 100-year floodplain. That will then allow the development of that property to occur. It is a 0% interest loan for 30 years. It is for $27,500,000 in principal, and that will cover design, construction, and issuance costs. The Texas Water Development Board of Directors approved the city's application for the loan on June 9th at their meeting, and we will be incorporating this project into the fiscal year 2023 CIP. It was not included in the previous 5-year CIP, but staff took advantage of this opportunity to find low-cost funding for this project that will then in turn result in development of that property, growth in our tax base, and further benefits to the city. So because this was not included in the 2019 Geo Bond, if you'll recall, we had around 80-something million total drainage projects identified. We included around 46 million in the Geo Bonds. So that left around 40 million or so unfunded from the Geo Bonds. So we are not able to utilize Geo Bonds for this project. But we can still issue certificates of obligation, which they are basically Geo Bonds, but the difference is we don't go to the voters ahead of time. We have to publish a notice about 45 days in advance. This is the only way we're going to be able to meet the closing deadlines established by the Texas Water Development Board. And this proposal is consistent with the financial management policy statements direction to allow us to issue COs to leverage funding opportunities. We are looking at potential interest savings based on market rates at the time the loan was approved at $14.4 million. With today's interest rate environment, that could grow. And so the fact that we're able to capture that 0% interest, this is a fabulous opportunity for us to be able to get that financed. We also would be looking at partial funding of the repayment on the COs from developer funds or economic development funds. So we'll be looking to minimize the impact on taxpayers as much as we can because private development would be benefiting from obviously the development of the property. And one thing we learned with the the previous loan that we did, Chimney Stone, yes, Austin Park Chimney Stone. Sorry, I was thinking Oyster Creek for some reason and just had that stuck in my head. We learned that when you have a zero interest bond, anything you earn in interest on that is subject to rebate to the IRS. And I don't know about y'all, but I do not like giving money to the IRS, especially the city's money. So in this case, we're going to be issuing taxable COs. It does not change the interest rate on the bonds, so there's no cost to us to do this. And that way, any interest that we earn on the escrow account as that money sits in escrow during the construction, the city will get to keep that interest. And that, again, provides savings because that's money that we're earning and not having to look for other funding sources. So in order to issue COs, state law requires the city to approve resolutions, which we're looking at doing tonight, and publish notice of intent to issue the certificates. The notice must be published in the newspaper once per week for 2 consecutive weeks. The first notice must be at least 46 days prior to the proposed sale date. And the notice also must be continuously posted on the city's website for at least 45 days before the date set for the passage of the ordinance or the sale date. In the last legislative session, they added a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be included in the notice. It's including, we've always had to include the time and place for consideration, how the COs were going to be utilized, and how they would be repaid. We now have to add to that some additional detail on the debt obligations of the city, including the outstanding principal on all debt obligations payable from property taxes, the combined principal and interest, and the maximum principal amount to be authorized. And then the total estimated principal and interest to repay, and the estimated interest rates and the maximum maturity dates. Somehow our bond counsel got that all into about 2 paragraphs, but it's all there. Just a brief overview. I will be before you over the next couple of months with our debt issuance plans for this year. So the 2022 A COs will be the issue for the airport CIP projects. The 2022 B COs will be the taxable COs for the Texas Water Development Board. These will be coming forward in August, August 16th for approval. And then concurrently, we're preparing to issue our annual Geo Bond funding for our voter-approved projects, as well as our revenue bonds. And so that would be the 2022 Geo Bonds and the 2022 revenue bonds. And the others are called A and B just because of when you issue a bond within 14 days, basically the Attorney General and the IRS consider it one issue for arbitrage purposes. And so that's why we have to number those A and B just because there are multiple issues throughout the year. We did review this plan with the City Council Audit Committee on June 2nd. And also, here's an overview of the timeline. So currently we're looking at an August 2nd sale date for the GEOs and revenue bonds. I'm also in discussion with our bond counsel on whether or not we should consider advancing the funds for the 2023 Geo Bond projects and just combine it into one bond issue. So we will have a recommendation on that prior to the sale date. So if we do that, we may push that Geo sale date back like 2 weeks and do it on the same day as the Geo issue. But for right now, we're planning to do that on August 2nd. So that is a work in progress. All the bonds would close 30 days after the sale date. And that is the timeline that we're looking at. And so for this evening's action would be approval of Resolution 22-28 and Resolution 22-29 to issue the 2 sets of certificates of obligation. Those will sell on August 16th because that is a published date. So we have to stick to that date as much as possible unless something really catastrophic happens and we're not able to stick with that date. So the notices would be published in the June 29th and July 6th newspapers and would then begin being posted on the city's website for that 45-day period on that date as well. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Question, Jennifer? Stuart?
Thank you, Mayor. This is embarrassing, Jennifer, but being on the Budget and Finance Committee, or Finance and Audit Committee, I'm sorry, I guess this technicality escaped me. So on the 2022 Bs, the Texas Water Development, so the mechanism is that we issue 0% CO bonds and the TWDB buys them from us?
Yes, so
Okay.
it is considered a private placement.
Okay, all right, that was it. Thank you.
Yes.
You want, Nashad?
Jennifer, since you brought up Chimney Stone, Is there any way of going back and refinancing a 0% interest the taxable way so we're not paying Uncle Sam?
I will have to ask our bond counsel on that. I don't recall that we had a call date in there. And so if we did, we would have to renegotiate with the Texas Water Development Board. And I'm not sure that we
Just
are
an
able
idea.
to do that, but I can look into it.
Thank you.
It's a very good question.
Anyone else?
To approve?
Carol, let's take them one at a time. So let's
Motion
go
to approve
consideration
resolution.
of an action on City of Sugarland Resolution Number 2228, which is the airport. And McCutcheon is the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Kermally? Vote at this time, please. And that's a 7-0 vote. Now let's take item D, which is consideration and action on City of Sugarland Resolution Number 2229, which is the Texas Water Development Board. Do I have a motion? Judge Jacobson, do I have a second? And a second by Lane. Vote at this time, please. Thank you, council members. That's a 7-0 vote. Item number 8, City Council City Manager reports. 8A, City Council Member reports. Carol, start with you.
Okay, well, a number of council members and I attended the Fort Bend County Commissioners Report, where we got an update on everything that's going on in the county. And I hosted Memorial Herman at Cheer Life 2022 at Smart Financial Center. And most of council and I attended the State of the City of Richmond with Mayor Becky Haas.
Thank you. Nishad.
No report, Mayor.
Suzanne.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to leave most of that to you guys, but the mayor, Councilmember Lane, and I attended the Fort Bend Regional Council on Substance Abuse honoring Anby Gariali, who is a junior at Fort Bend ISD Dulles. She was honored as the District 4 Student Hero 2022 Award Recipient of the Year. She is fantastic. She's incredible. She's only a junior, and she was recognized for selfless service in helping youth prevention, drug abuse, and alcohol use. So congratulations if you're watching, Andy.
Thanks, Suzanne. William.
I love the humility of Nishad Kermali. Yesterday, I attended an event that Nishad and our state rep, J.C. Jatan, put on, and I was so moved to watch our South Asian community. They're coming together like superstars, and it's just making this community even better. And that was hosted by Councilman Kermali. And I appreciate what you're doing in our community, sir.
Stuart.
In the spirit of moving humility, I have no report, Mayor.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Over the weekend, I attended the First Colony Community Services Association Juneteenth celebration. They had barbecue, live music, and I got dunked in the dunk tank. So it was a lot of fun. I was told I was a good sport. And also I was in the parade in Missouri City for Juneteenth, and a huge turnout and lots of fun.
Item number 8B is City Manager report.
Thanks, Mayor. This is our last regular meeting before the annual Red, White, and Boom event at Crown Festival Park. So gates open at 5, events from 6 to 10. We're going to have a great time. Doug Schaumburger was here earlier tonight. This was his last regular city council meeting. He is retiring at the end of this month, 26 years, and he's done a lot of great work for us. So really happy for him in his retirement. I want to thank the hardworking employees in Public Works. They have been very busy fixing a lot of water main breaks due to the drought. I think they're doing about the same amount each day as they typically had a month. I mean, it's crazy, and they're doing a great job. I know they're worn out, but we all appreciate their work. And for all of you parents like myself who are going crazy with your kids home, We still have openings in our summer camps for STEM, volleyball, basketball, and art. So go to the parks webpage and sign them up. That's it, Mayor.
And for Doug Schomburg, I remember Doug when he came to work with the city. I was here. So it's been a long time. We'll have to look forward to celebrating that. In 3 years. Motion to adjourn.
The workshop?
Yeah, the 5th.